See how important it is to keep your eyes open? As Kevin gets run over by our good friend, George Morris. This is a V100, so we're speeding ahead from 1945 to 1970. This is a vehicle, an armored car, which was used extensively in Vietnam for convoy support by military police. So during the war in the South Vietnam, there were far-flung fire bases, helicopter bases, various outposts, special forces outposts, and they had to be resupplied on a regular basis with everything from the mail to food to ammunition. And those were soft-skin vehicles, kind of like deuce and a half type vehicles, 4-ton trucks, 5-ton trucks, resupplying them, and they were very vulnerable to attack by Viet Cong forces, ambushing them as they came along roadways. So one of the tactics was to intersperse vehicles like this V100, in amongst those convoys to either dissuade the enemy from ambushing the convoy, or if in fact it did get ambushed anyway, to fight them off. So you can see that. I forgot what I was going to say. This is what happens when you're an old man like that. All right, here comes our V100. Let's start with that again, or restart with that. V100, Vietnam era vehicle. This vehicle is amphibious, by the way, and when it is in the water, its motor power is the same tires, so those very heavily coated tires provide propulsive force. I don't think that you're in a very still stream or a pond or something like that. It was not a popular way to traverse water, but it could do it. That's a Dingo. You just heard the Hellcat. He's warming up. Here comes our M20. And again, on the second Armored Division, you guys want to take a look at these vehicles. You're going to be older on the side. Scott was talking about the 2nd Armored Division. That's with that 2 A-beams, that triangle there. 82nd Recon, reconnaissance troop. They were telling what was out ahead of the main armored force. And they would have had a driver, co-driver, commander, and a couple of armed guys like these. Well, thank you. Thank you, Zach. These vehicles from B Company or B Troop. That's the B, and hence the B name of Brickbat. So, the M18, I'm sure you guys want to see that. This is called the Hellcat tank destroyer, and interestingly enough, we just replaced a very, very talented mechanical crew, just replaced exactly a week ago today, the track side. Actually, finding tracks I got, those are original tracks probably made in, almost definitely made during World War II. And those, very lucky for us, were hiding out in the desert someplace. Our super sleuths here, the internet is a big, big deal of what we do now. It's beyond me. But these very talented guys here tracked down a set of tracks, no pun intended. Steel tracks, which are very, very rare nowadays. They were out in the desert, thank goodness, because that kept them in good condition. And those guys stripped off the old tracks and replaced those new ones. And they, again, they're very rare because a lot of people who operate M18s now, a lot of people who operate M18s now have switched because of the rarity of up to speed now, because just prior to last week, the old tracks on that vehicle were all stretched out. The bushings were gone on the tracks, and they were just slack. We were very, very wary of making any kind of tight turns or doing any kind of speed work with the vehicle because the tracks were just in such bad shape. So now you can see we're back in action. We're anxious to get it up into the restoration village where we can maybe open it up a little bit. In fact, talking about opening it up, this was the fastest vehicle in the American inventory from World War II right until the M1, our current main battle tank, the M1 Abrams, took the field. This could Shane was instrumental in getting these tracks, not only acquiring it, but then getting the crew to get them on last week. This vehicle is really all about this gun right here. And everything is superfluous to getting that gun. Getting to the gun, the tank destroyer before getting it to where it had to be quickly. And if things didn't go right, if you didn't kill what you wanted to kill, or there was more there than you were capable of handling, you could use that same speed to get the heck out of Dodge. So it has a radial engine in it, an aircraft engine. I don't know if you noticed when Shane started it up, big puff of white smoke. That's very, very common in a radial type engine. I don't know if you saw it well, we cranked it over inside. Because oil pools, you know what a radial engine is, right? You've probably seen them in World War II aircraft. Oil tends to pool down in those lower cylinders, and if you don't get that oil out by hand cranking it over, you get a hydrostatic lock. You're going to bend the rod, you're going to break the piston, you're going to do something to the valve train. So what they do is they turn it over, big crank. You can see, remember from B-17s, B-24s, guys will take the propeller on the shoulder and turn it around. But they're all doing the same thing. They're trying to force that oil that has laid down in those lower cylinders out, and it winds up in the exhaust passages, and when they light the engine off, actually start it off, that oil burns off and you get that big puff of white smoke. What, how many? 500 horsepower? 450? Who's counting for that engine? And again, this vehicle, this symbol right here, we talked about some symbols before, that's called a bridging plate. And oftentimes it coincides with the actual weight of the vehicle, but it gives an engineer or an MP when they're crossing over a bridge or a roadway or something, an idea of how much that vehicle weighs so that you don't exceed the weight capacity of that vehicle. Just so happens that 18, that's really a classification, but again, oftentimes it coincides with the actual weight, and that is about what this vehicle weighs, about 18 tons. And you're sharpen, if you guys, hey, don't mess up my picture. So that tank weighs anywhere from 30 to 35 tons versus that 18. So that comes at a cost. Shane there has armor like that in the front versus you can see that big armor plate on the Sherman. But that's by design. Also, by the way, we don't have any crew. Maybe we'll get some crew in here later on, but there is no roof on that turret either. So it's all about speed. It's all about that gun. It's all about speed, getting that to the fight, and then if necessary, getting it out of the fight. That's what should have first. We have a wonderful little crew. Everybody you see here is a volunteer. A lot of friends. I think that's another vehicle. Actually, this is pretty cool. I want to say that I designed this, but I didn't. So we're going to see two different half-tracks here. We're going to see an American half-track, and we're going to see the German half-track. Between an American half-track and German half-track. It's called a Hanomag. But the actual design and operation are a little bit different. We'll talk about that when they come back around. And I was explaining a lot of stuff to them. And the mother, and his son, so the mother and two sons were talking, and the boys were asking some questions, things like that. Well, I guess I gave him a good show. And the young mother said to me, "You're very knowledgeable." She said, "Are you a World War II veteran?" I didn't know whether to be flattered or insulted. additional traction. Oh, thank you. Additional traction with the tracks, but it gave you the ease of steerability with the front wheels. So you could take a kid who was, mostly they were farm guys, even here in the United States, very rural outlook in the United States and across Europe as well. So they were driving trucks in the farm and things like that. So you could jump in a half track like this without giving some kind of special training on a fully tracked vehicle, much like the vehicle Shane was driving there, the M18. Because you can get in here and you could steer with the front wheels, and you had a tracked vehicle as well, so you had the advantage of that with the advantage of being able to easily steer. But here we see, in a very simple and elegant form, a little difference between the United States theory of how to do things versus what the Germans did. So here, we have a half track. Now you can see the armor plate here. Thin armor plate, it would protect you from small arms fire, shrapnel, things like that. But look how upright it is. Very, very simple to make, very, very simple to install. And as a matter of fact, when you take a look at this vehicle closer, or if you got better eyes than me, you will see that armor is screwed on there. So it wasn't welded. There was nothing fancy going on. They made armor plate, rolled it out, made armor plate, and screwed it to a frame. Now, if you look at the armor on this SDKFZ 251, look how it's slanted. A little bit better ballistic protection. It's bolted together. There's some welding going on. So that was the German way of doing it. They're always improving. But really, was that advantageous or not? And that's the great debate. Another aspect to look at would be the front wheels on our half track. This is an M2, by the way. The wheels steer, and they're also drivable. You can engage those front wheels when you want to. But the only way you steer this vehicle is with the steering wheel in the front, and you turn the wheels left, right. The Germans, though, they didn't like that. They wanted to be a little bit more complicated, and they said, all right, we'll steer with the front wheels, but when you turn more than a few degrees, the track is going to engage too. So that's how a tracked vehicle turns. You probably know it's right one track and give the other power, and you have to pivot on the track. So again, very complicated procedure. How much advantage it gave to them, I don't know. Look at the road wheels on the vehicle. See how they are interleaved? So you have one wheel, you have a wheel behind it, one wheel in the front, wheel behind it. Something happened to one of those wheels, very similar to what's going on in the back. Having one of those wheels, oftentimes instead of if you rode at a bearing or push and go wrong on one of those inner wheels, you were taking off a ton of wheels just to get at the bending wheel. Look at the simplicity here. This is a one-piece track. I don't know if you have any model builders out there, but when I was a kid, one-piece tracks with your model kits, they were the way to go. Still for me, in a lot of ways. But that's one-piece track. Instead of a various track shoes like that, a steel track versus a rubber track. Again, simplicity in and of itself. Some of our vehicles are replicas, particularly our German vehicles, because German vehicles are so hard to come by. So many were destroyed during the war. That is almost the real deal. I don't want to talk a lot about power kudos. This is a 2.5-ton truck, otherwise known as a deuce and a half. This is not a sexy, like a big tank with a big gun in it, but this is a vehicle that's just as important because this is the vehicle that made those other vehicles go. It could do everything and anything for its load carrying capability. It could be a dump truck, it could be a fire truck. In this case, we're using it for cargo capacity. It could carry troops in the back. Well, with our living historians, which are behind you guys, when we go up into the field, they often ride this vehicle, or American Armored Infantry back up into the field. They could carry troops, they could carry ammunition, it could carry fuel, any number of things. And I don't know if you guys are aware of the Red Bull Express, which was a nickname given to that almost constant conveyor of supplies which were following the armored divisions as they quickly marched through France, into Belgium, and into Germany. And there was a lot of difficulty keeping up with them as far as, again, supplying those things, ammunition, gasoline, and all the things that make an armored division go. And they were used with vehicles like this. The museum is open, by the way, if you guys haven't been inside. You won't miss a whole lot. We're going to continually run. This is a British scout car. We've seen a Dingo before. This is its immediate follow-on in the Cold War area, Cold War era, 1950. You can hear how quiet it is. Size has that's 30 caliber, right? 30 caliber gun up in the turret. Two-man crew, driver, and commander gunner. This is called a ferret. A ferret, as you know, is a stealthy little animal that can sneak around, and that's what a scout car did. So we've got some barbed wire up on top there, and Mr. Shane Eckberg again. So somebody said, what are those things on the front there? That's called Marsden matting, and you've seen a lot of that in the United States. We saw all the way from World War II, where they were moving airfields, right through Vietnam, where they were doing the same thing. Hard stands for helicopters, entire airfields for Marines and Navy aircraft on the islands during World War II. And those would help this vehicle, if it got stuck, actually help them get out. That's a ferret. Now we have another kind of cool vehicle coming up right now. This is a very unique vehicle. This is called a high-speed tractor. And as people say to me, well, define high speed. That's what they call it. This vehicle has one job only. And that is to pull the 155mm gun between the roll and press that into zero and down with the gun. This one all the way into the line of our vehicle here. So that is a very, very heavy gun, big gun. In fact, one of the things we often say was that gun, when you fire that gun here, you could hit the bathhouse at its own speed. You could hit Lloyd Harbor, Billy Joel's old house out there, and with great accuracy. But back on track, that vehicle's job was to pull that gun, pull it to the general location, and then in place it. It could push it, it could pull it in Antarctic, in deserts. And a vehicle like that was very, very valuable in that kind of exploration. And another job that we do in the civilian market, and we have the good idea that that's what that vehicle. And here's another vehicle. We talked about vehicles not being, being popular vehicles, but this vehicle like this may capabilities of things like the high-speed tractor, the M20 that I've gone before. This is called the Diamond King 4-ton truck. Back in traditional, we're going to bring out one of our later on. But this is a very traditional tow truck. And that M20 got stuck that you saw before, or half-track got stuck before, a vehicle like this could come in, get it unstuck, if it was damaged, and you get it back to a repair facility and get it repaired. Whether mechanical problem or if it had a battle damage, get it back, retrieve it. And that was part of the genius of the American war effort, in that we put great emphasis on vehicle reliability, number one, but something happens to you all the time, you always have to repair the war. And then we put even more emphasis on the ability to retrieve those vehicles, get them repaired, get them back into the fight. So you can have the most complex, beautiful weapon system in the world, it's broken down, it's not doing you any good. But the United States put great emphasis on getting vehicles like this Diamond T 4-ton tow truck, to get vehicles back to repair area. You can see it actually can do some repair. You can see the acetylene welding tanks there, and very, very trained crews of mechanics to get these vehicles back. And it's kind of pretty cool because the guys, one of our guys, and they're all volunteers. So it's kind of poetic justice that some of our great mechanics, like this gentleman, are driving a vehicle like that. So it's kind of like life imitating art, or is that art imitating life? Same. Yeah, there was probably a depot that made them, cut them. But there are all different versions of it welded to that front bumper. So the idea was, so Nick is speeding along, he can't see, or he's on his phone, as he often is. And the wire here, so the wire, instead of hitting Nick, is going to hit this wire cutter. And so we angled like this, and a lot of times there were devices up here, so the wire would hit this right up and then get cut. And if not get cut, at least be deflected and prevent the driver from being injured. And you know, on occasion, I've been here a little while, and so many World War II veterans, or almost all are gone, But even back 9 years ago when I started here, you would get the occasional World War II veteran in here, and we treated them like gold, and we'd always ask them stories. What can you tell us about this? What can you tell us about that? It was still by hard wire. It was telegraph. It was telephones. And they would string wire wherever they could. Sometimes even just lay it on the road, but they would string it from fence posts, steeples, houses, everything and anything. So the times he ran it, that's a 30 caliber machine gun. There were some vehicles that had 6 caliber machine guns, but that was a lot of weapons. And here's a vehicle that is not World War II, not Korea, not Vietnam, no kind of Vietnam. This is probably the most useful vehicle we have here at the Museum of American Armor. This is there was one minor record from the 80s, and you can imagine we're dealing with vehicles that are 80 years old, 70 years old. We get a lot of breakdowns, but we are equipped with a vehicle like this to do towing, and frame in the back, locator type, so we're able to lift out engines and transmissions and all kinds of heavy duty work. So this is a real deal. This is a former Army vehicle that has come into our hands and very, very useful. Hear those air brakes. So surprisingly easy vehicle to drive. Power steering, air brakes, starts up reliably. It's a big truck, but very good visibility too. This is one of our star performers, and 2 of our star volunteers in this mechanic work, which is Zach Schwartz and Zach is up. Zach is in the driver's pole there. And they're going to demonstrate to you our beautiful health pack, AAP health pack. I'm going it down in the weeds. This is not a tank. This is a tank destroyer. It's all business without that gun. It's about getting to a certain area as quickly as possible. Kind of a mystery that we never were able, despite all our other innovations, were able to get a good anti-tank gun. We decided that maybe, and also our late model Shermans, as opposed to this, were mostly equipped with that 76mm gun. So get into a hole where German armor was, quickly get there, fire that big gun, So now the Sherman tank, which we saw just demonstrated with Dick and George, that's a anywhere from 30 to 35 tons depending on the variant. That guy got a bigger gun, a more lethal gun, and it weighs a mere 18 tons. And again, that was by design. When you guys take a chance to come look at the armor on the glasses here of the standard A3, it's I think it's 2.5